This is part 7 of our virtual gardening series, Spiritual Conversations. As usual, let's begin with some big picture perspective. As an apprentice of the King of the Universe, you have been officially authorized by him to carry out a very specific task, to recruit and train other apprentices, or disciples. Of course, we are also to love our neighbors through our actions, but this disciple-making task is one that only believers are authorized and equipped to do. Once you understand that this is your calling as a believer and take responsibility for your role as a kingdom ambassador, everything changes. The word should disappears from your Christian vocabulary, as in, I should read the Bible, study, memorize, meditate, pray, give, witness, and so on. As long as you think of your faith merely as a private, personal relationship with God, you're likely to think of these things as heavy, burdensome obligations that you force yourself to do or else feel guilty when you fail to do them. But when you catch a vision for gardening in the harvest field, playing a role in bringing others to salvation, you realize how desperately dependent you are on God. So you pray. You realize how important it is to know and understand the Bible so that you can draw on it in conversations. So you study it and memorize it and meditate on it. You know that you are likely to encounter Muslims, atheists, spiritual but not religious people, and others, so you're motivated to learn about other worldviews and how Christianity speaks to them. In other words, how is the gospel good news for them? The goal is not to be an expert, but to be a lifelong learner, one who is being transformed by the renewing of your mind, becoming a worker who does not need to be ashamed, skillfully handling the word of truth. With that as background, how can we move from casual conversations to spiritual conversations? As we said in the last video, prayerful listening is key. What themes are you hearing that might provide a starting point for conversation? Do you sense loneliness, fear, anger, uncertainty, confusion, depression? All of these and more are widespread during this time of worldwide upheaval. Recently, in a non-religious men's circle that I attend, the leader asked the group what we lean on at times like this. He mentioned that he turns to mythology and to favorite poems. When my turn came, I said that the poetry of ancient Israel, collected in the book of Psalms, has always been important to me, because we see honest emotions poured out in the thick of danger, fear, and grief, but always looking beyond these to find comfort and hope in God. Here's something I tossed out to one of my pen pals recently. My favorite author, C.S. Lewis, a Brit who lived through both world wars in the last century, wrote, "Pain is God's megaphone to arouse a deaf world." Have you heard that before? What do you think about it? With new pen pals, my goal is to get to spiritual conversations as quickly as possible without putting the person on the defensive. Here's one way I might do that. I've been corresponding quite a bit lately with people in different countries about matters of faith, since dangerous times tend to bring the big questions about life and death to the surface. What is your spiritual background? Or where are you on your spiritual journey? I'm a follower of Jesus, although I'm not the pushy type. However, I do enjoy a respectful discussion with people of other faiths or no faiths. Currently, I'm having an ongoing conversation with a Muslim man in West Africa and another conversation with a Christian man in Uganda. I meet online with a men's group, most of whom I believe are atheists. Write back when you can and tell me more about yourself. One surprisingly effective way to get onto a spiritual level with someone is to simply ask if you could pray for them. If the person is telling you about a difficult situation she is experiencing, you could say, "I've mentioned that I'm a Jesus follower. Would it be okay if I prayed for you right now? If not, that's totally fine too." Praying with someone can open up a new and more personal level of communication with them. Telling your story can be a powerful element in a spiritual conversation. This takes some preparation and practice because you want it to be brief, concise, and tailored to the person and topic of conversation. It's good to aim to do it in 30 seconds. You can always expand it if the situation allows. It's good to have several different versions with different themes so that you can use the most appropriate one. Here's one of mine. Before I knew Jesus, I grew up in a religious home, church, and school, proud of being a good person, but also insecure. Around age 19, I realized that my religious beliefs weren't adequate to address my deep needs for meaning and truth. So I abandoned religion and searched until 2 years later I encountered Jesus in a way that completely disarmed me and convinced me to surrender my life to him. Since then, he has changed my life, giving me real joy and certainty about the meaning of life that I had longed for. In a current pen pal conversation I'm having with a Muslim, we are discussing the similarities and differences between our beliefs. He is sending me videos and passages from the Quran, and I'm studying those carefully. My goal, however, is to move with him into reading together directly from the Gospel of John, which we'll talk about more in the next video on discovery conversations. Sometimes in a spiritual conversation, you'll be challenged by a criticism against Christianity. We'll deal with some of the most common criticisms in a future video. Next time, we'll talk about discovery conversations. Don't forget to subscribe below and check out the resources in the notes section.